The United Arab Emirates, one of the richest and most strategically important countries in the Gulf, is reportedly in early-stage talks to buy two Indian defense systems, BrahMos and Akashteer. One is a supersonic cruise missile that gives a country the ability to strike back with speed, precision, and confidence. The other is an air defense command system that helps a country survive the kind of drone and missile attacks that have become one of the biggest threats in modern warfare. This is a sign that India's defense rise has entered a new phase. The nation's technology, battlefield experience, and strategic confidence are now being studied with respect by serious militaries around the world. And the most important part is not only that the UAE is interested, the most important part is where this interest is coming from. The Gulf is not a small defense market. It is one of the most important defense markets in the world. For decades, Gulf security has been built around American weapons, American radars, American aircrafts, and American command systems. Gulf capitals look to Washington for protection, and Gulf militaries built their defense architecture around American technology. So when a Gulf country begins looking seriously at Indian defense systems, it shows that India's defense industry has entered a new league. And to understand why this is happening now, we have to understand what recent wars have taught every serious military in the world. For decades, wealthy countries believed that if they bought the most advanced Western air defense systems, they were safe. They bought expensive weapons and layered missile defense networks designed to stop the most dangerous incoming threats. For a long time, this model made sense. If the enemy fired a ballistic missile, you fired an interceptor. If the enemy launched an aircraft, you tracked it and shot it down. If the enemy sent a cruise missile, you used your best system to stop it. But modern warfare has changed. The enemy no longer needs to attack only with expensive missiles. They can now send cheap drones in large numbers. It can send hundreds of them at once, mix them with cruise missiles, add ballistic missiles into the same attack, launch them from different directions, and time them to arrive together. This creates a very different kind of problem for air defense systems. The question is whether the system can think fast enough, choose correctly, and spend wisely. Because a drone may cost only a few $1,000s, while the interceptor used to destroy it may cost millions. And if the enemy sends hundreds of such drones again and again, the defender starts losing money, stock, and time. This is the new battlefield. It is about cost, speed, decision-making, and endurance. It is about how long a country can keep defending itself when cheap weapons keep arriving in large numbers. This lesson has already been visible in different parts of the world. It was visible in Israel's defense challenges. It was visible in Ukraine. It was visible in the Red Sea, where drones and missiles forced expensive naval responses. It was visible wherever cheap drones began testing expensive air defense systems. The UAE watched all of this very carefully, and the conclusion was obvious. A country cannot depend only on expensive interceptors. It needs a smarter system. It needs a system that can see the whole sky, understand the threat, choose the right weapon, and avoid wasting the most expensive missile on the cheapest target. That is where Akashteer enters the story. Akashteer is not a missile. It is not a radar. It is not the kind of weapon people usually imagine when they think of air defense. Akashteer is the brain of an air defense network, and that is exactly what makes it important. A modern country may already have many different systems. All of them may work individually, but if they do not work together, the country still has a problem. Think of it like a hospital emergency room during a disaster. Hundreds of patients arrive at the same time. Some have minor injuries. Some need urgent surgery. Some need oxygen. Some need immediate blood. Some can wait. If the hospital treats every patient the same way, the whole system collapses. A good hospital decides who needs help first, who needs which doctor, which case is urgent, and which case can wait. It uses its resources carefully because resources are limited. Akashteer does something similar for air defense. It takes information from different radars and sensors and builds one clear picture of the airspace. It sees incoming drones, missiles, aircraft, and other threats. Then it helps classify those threats and decide which weapon should be used against which target. This is the key point. Not every incoming threat deserves the most expensive response. Akashteer reduces confusion. It brings speed, coordination, automation, and clarity. That is why it matters to a country like the UAE. The UAE already has powerful systems. It has invested heavily in American air defense. But modern warfare is asking a new question. Can all these systems talk to each other fast enough? Can they choose the right weapon for the right threat? Can they survive a mass drone and missile attack without wasting their most expensive interceptors? That is the gap Akash-tier can help fill. Akash-tier does not need to replace every system the UAE already has. It can sit above them, connect them, and make them smarter. In modern warfare, that may be just as important as buying another missile. The world respects a defense system when it works under pressure. That is why Operation Sindoor changed the conversation. During the 2025 conflict with Pakistan, India's indigenous air defense systems were tested under real conditions. Reports said Pakistan launched a large number of drones and missiles across the Western Front. India's air defense network, with Akashteer playing a central role, detected, tracked, coordinated, and helped neutralize incoming threats. And under that pressure, Indian systems performed amazingly well. For defense ministries around the world, this is credibility. A country may admire a system on paper, but when it sees that system work during an actual conflict, the calculation changes. This is why Operation Sindoor became important for India's defense exports. It gave India validation. If Akashteer is the shield, BrahMos is the sword. BrahMos is one of the fastest supersonic cruise missiles in the world. It was developed jointly by India and Russia. It can travel at around 3 times the speed of sound. It can be launched from land, sea, and air platforms. It is fast, precise, and extremely difficult to stop. For the UAE, this matters deeply. The Gulf has major security threats, some of the world's most important energy infrastructure, and a long history of depending on American defense systems. That model is not disappearing. The United States will remain a major security partner for Gulf countries. But the Gulf is changing how it thinks. The UAE can buy from America, France, South Korea, and several other major suppliers. So if the UAE is looking at BrahMos and Akashteer, it means India has built something worth considering. That is the real change. BrahMos is the most famous name in India's missile export story, and for good reason. It is fast, powerful, proven, and respected. But India's missile story does not end with BrahMos. In June 2026, India successfully tested its indigenous long-range land attack cruise missile from the Odisha coast. This matters because it shows that India is building a wider family of precision strike systems. BrahMos is already a symbol of speed and deterrence. But India also needs other cruise missiles, longer-range systems, different launch options, and weapons that can serve different battlefield needs. That is how a serious missile ecosystem is built. A country does not become a major defense power by producing one good weapon. It becomes a major defense power by building families of systems. That is the direction India is moving in. It is expanding its precision strike capability. It is thinking about future conflicts where distance, accuracy, stealth, and flexibility will matter. This is why the UAE looking at BrahMos and Akashteer should not be seen as one isolated deal. It should be seen as part of a much larger trend. The Indian Air Force has begun work on indigenous long-range kamikaze drones with domestic industry partners. This is important because it shows India is not only thinking about how to stop drones, India is also thinking about how to use drones in future wars. Drones are no longer small tools used only for surveillance. They are now weapons. They can watch. They can strike. They can confuse radars. They can exhaust air defense systems. They can attack ships, tanks, oil facilities, military bases, and command centers. They can be used by rich countries, poor countries, terror groups, militias, and state-backed forces. This has changed the battlefield. Earlier, a country needed expensive aircraft or long-range missiles to create serious pressure. Now, even a cheaper drone can create real danger if it is used in large numbers. A swarm of drones can force a powerful military to spend huge money just to defend itself. That is why India's move into long-range kamikaze drones is important. And this fits perfectly with Akashteer. On one side, India is building systems that can defend against mass drone and missile attacks. On the other side, India is building the kind of unmanned systems that will shape future offensive warfare. Modern warfare is about networks. A missile is powerful, but it becomes more powerful when it is connected to sensors, satellites, command systems, aircraft, drones, and real-time intelligence. A drone is useful, but it becomes more useful when it is part of a larger battlefield picture. An air defense system is strong, but it becomes stronger when it can see every threat, classify every target, and choose the correct response. India is slowly building a connected defense ecosystem. The country that connects everything will have an advantage. The final piece of this larger picture is India's AMCA program. AMCA is India's attempt to build its own fifth-generation stealth fighter. This is not an easy project. A fifth-generation aircraft is one of the hardest things any country can build. India is not only trying to sell what it has today, India is also trying to build what it will need tomorrow. BrahMos tells the world that India can build serious strike systems. Akashteer tells the world that India can build battlefield command intelligence. The drone program tells the world that India is preparing for unmanned warfare. The long-range land attack cruise missile tells the world that India's precision strike ecosystem is expanding. AMCA tells the world that India wants to enter the highest level of military aviation, and India is now bringing this capability into serious international markets. The most interesting part is that India is not entering the Gulf defense market as an enemy of America. India is entering as an American partner. That makes the event even more powerful. If a Russian system enters an American-dominated market, it creates obvious tension. If a Chinese system enters an American-dominated market, it becomes a geopolitical problem. But India is different. India has close defense relations with the United States. India buys American systems. India conducts military exercises with America. India works with Washington in the Indo-Pacific. India is not a formal ally, but it is a major partner. So when the UAE looks at Indian systems, it is not necessarily choosing against America. It may be choosing something that works alongside American systems. That is exactly why Akashteer is important. Akashteer does not have to replace Patriot. It does not have to replace THAAD. It can improve the way different systems communicate and respond. This gives India a powerful opening. That is a smart entry point. It avoids direct confrontation. It fills a real gap. It gives the buyer a practical benefit, and it allows India to enter a market that was previously closed to it. This is how serious powers expand influence. Modern war is not only about who has the best missile, it is also about who can afford to keep fighting. That is the uncomfortable truth many countries are now learning. Every interception costs money. Every missile fired reduces stock. Every radar operator faces pressure. Every command center has to make decisions faster. This is where Indian systems become attractive. India thinks carefully about cost. India does not build defense models where every problem is solved by firing the most expensive weapon. India's military planning always balances scale, cost, geography, and threat. India faces a long border with Pakistan, a long border with China, a vast coastline, air threats, drone threats, missile threats, terror threats, and maritime threats. It cannot afford a lazy defense model. It needs smart defense. That necessity has shaped Indian innovation. And now the same systems that were built for India's own needs are becoming useful to others. This is where India's advantage begins to show. India is building systems for real problems. It has to think about mountains, deserts, coastlines, cities, air bases, naval bases, drones, missiles, cyber threats, and multiple hostile fronts. That kind of geography forces seriousness. In 2013 to 14, India's defense exports were only a small fraction of what they are today. India was still seen mainly as a large buyer in the global defense market. The usual question was simple: what will India buy next? But by the financial year 2025 to 26, India's defense exports had reached around $4.11 billion. That was a record, and it was more than 62% higher than the previous year. This is a serious shift. Countries are signing contracts, buying Indian systems, testing Indian technology, and accepting Indian reliability. This is happening across different categories: missiles, air defense, artillery, radars, naval systems, electronic systems, ammunition, and components. BrahMos has already become one of the strongest symbols of this new India. The Philippines has already become a BrahMos customer. Other countries in Southeast Asia and beyond have shown serious interest. Vietnam, Indonesia, and others have been discussed in reports. Countries in Latin America and Africa have also been linked with interest in the system. For smaller and medium powers, BrahMos is attractive because it gives them serious strike capability without needing the entire military ecosystem of a superpower. It gives them a sharp, fast, credible option. But BrahMos is only one part of the export story. Akash, Pinaka, Swathi, weapon-locating radars, artillery systems, electronic systems, and other Indian defense products are also part of the larger rise. India is moving from basic defense exports into more serious systems. That means India is moving up the value chain. And this matters because defense exports are not like ordinary exports. When a country buys weapons from you, it is not only buying a product, it is building trust. It is accepting training. It is depending on your maintenance. It is creating a long-term relationship with your armed forces, your industry, and your government. A defense export is a strategic relationship. That is why this moment is bigger than money. India is not just earning dollars. India is building influence. The UAE is not just another buyer. It is a serious strategic player. It has money, influence, one of the most advanced militaries in the Arab world, deep ties with the United States, strong relations with India, and a location in one of the most sensitive regions on Earth. So if the UAE moves toward Indian defense systems, other countries will watch. Defense buyers learn from one another. If one serious country takes a chance on a system and it works, others become more comfortable. That is why the first major deal in a region matters so much. It breaks the psychological barrier. It tells others that this supplier is serious. For India, the UAE could become that barrier-breaking moment in the Gulf. A Gulf country buying an Indian missile or Indian air defense command system would send a message far beyond Abu Dhabi. It would say that India is now trusted with high-end defense responsibilities, and that is a very big step. The timing of this shift is not accidental. The world is becoming more uncertain. The United States and China are locked in a long strategic competition. Russia and the West remain in conflict. The Middle East is unstable. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the most sensitive energy choke points in the world. Nobody wants to depend fully on one supplier. Nobody wants to be trapped if one country delays spare parts, blocks technology, changes policy, or uses supply chains as pressure. This is why countries are diversifying. They want American systems, but not only American systems. They want European systems, but not only European systems. They are looking at South Korea, Turkey, Israel, India, and others. The defense market is no longer a simple Western club. It is becoming more multipolar. And in a multipolar defense market, India has a real opening. India has scale, engineering talent, battlefield experience, and strategic partnerships with different camps. India works with America, Russia, France, Israel, Gulf countries, Southeast Asia, Africa, and many others. This gives India a unique position. India can sell to countries that do not want to anger Washington too much. It can work with countries that want alternatives to China. It can build partnerships without forcing every buyer into one geopolitical camp. That is a major advantage. China is also a major defense exporter, but buying from China comes with political weight. For many countries, Chinese weapons come with worries. Will this create dependence? Will this bring strategic pressure? Will this affect relations with the United States? Will Chinese systems create data or security concerns? Will Beijing use the relationship later? These questions matter. India offers a different story. India sells capability. India builds relationships. India does not force countries to choose between everyone else in New Delhi. That makes India easier for many countries to work with, especially countries like the UAE. The UAE can deepen defense ties with India while still maintaining strong relations with the United States. It can diversify without creating open confrontation. It can add capability without appearing to switch camps. This is a very important advantage for India. The future defense market will not only be about who has the best weapon, it will also be about who is politically easier to buy from. India is becoming that option, a serious option, a trusted option, and a non-threatening option. That combination is powerful. Defense exports create three kinds of strength. First, they create economic strength through revenue, jobs, factories, and technology growth. Second, they create military strength because export success helps domestic production become larger, cheaper, and more advanced. Third, they create diplomatic strength because countries that buy your weapons build long-term security relationships with you. India is now entering all three spaces together. When people talk about missiles, they often think only about war. But defense manufacturing is also about industry. A missile is not only a missile. It contains electronics, guidance systems, propulsion, metals, sensors, software, engines, warheads, launchers, transport vehicles, communication systems, and testing infrastructure. An air defense system is not only a military product. It involves radars, command software, data processing, secure communication, mobility platforms, batteries, interfaces, and trained operators. When India exports these systems, it is not only exporting weapons, it is exporting the work of engineers, technicians, scientists, factory workers, software teams, public sector companies, private sector suppliers, and research institutions. This is how an ecosystem grows. One order creates work for many companies. One export deal strengthens many suppliers. One successful system builds confidence across the industry. That is why defense exports are linked to national manufacturing. They push metallurgy, electronics, software, precision engineering, semiconductors, testing facilities, and quality control. Defense exports are not separate from Make in India. They are one of its hardest tests. The world will not buy a defense system only because it is Indian. The world will buy it only if it works. And that is why this rise matters. It means India is beginning to compete in one of the most demanding manufacturing sectors in the world. For China, India's defense rise is a serious development. China has long tried to build influence around India's neighborhood and beyond. It used infrastructure, loans, ports, the Belt and Road Initiative, and arms exports in some regions. But Indian defense exports create a different kind of influence. A country that buys Indian weapons builds a military relationship with India. Its officers train with India. Its technicians learn Indian systems. Its defense planners stay connected with Indian companies. Its future upgrades may depend on India. That is long-term influence. This matters especially in Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean region. If more countries buy Indian systems, India's defense footprint grows, and that directly affects China's strategic calculations. China does not want India to become a serious security provider. China would prefer India to remain focused only on its borders. But India is now moving outward, not with bases everywhere, not with military alliances everywhere, but with defense exports, training, partnerships, naval presence, and strategic trust. India is building step by step. The world was used to seeing India as a defense buyer. Now it has to get used to seeing India as a defense supplier. It happens when the world sees performance and reliability. It happens when the world sees that a country is no longer only talking about capability, but actually building it. India is not yet the world's biggest defense exporter, and India is not pretending that it is. But the direction is clear. And once India enters a room like this, the room does not remain the same. Thank you for watching this through to the end. Share it with someone who needs to see where the countries are heading. Do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one.